All right. Yeah. So I'm Nick Pruitt. I am the table pastor slash, I guess, outreach pastor here at Heritage Naz. Um, we do a small church on Saturday nights at 5 p.m. in the South End where we just feed people, and that's kind of my role in a nutshell here. Also work in the community week in, week out for the local community action agency and oversee a lot of grant programs and stuff. But none of that would be happening without Christ. I was not born and raised in the church. Very, very minimal church exposure as a kid growing up. But great parents, good family and everything, but just no focus on our spiritual health as kids and as a family. My church exposure as a kid and growing up, a couple different things. The big one was probably $20 a week in allowance from grandma to go through catechism at the Lutheran church down the street. And then in high school, just like every other high school boy that meets a girl he likes and he thinks is cute, and her family goes to church. So if I want to spend more time with her, then I'm just going to have to suck it up and show up at church on Sunday mornings too. But I mean, like, knowing what I know now and what I've experienced, like seeing that prevenient grace of God, like I wasn't seeking him, but looking back, knowing that like all along, like he was there, right? So 14 years old, it sounds weird to talk about that specific age, but that's probably where things kind of got turned on their heads for me. My parents divorced. I think I was probably like the last kid in my friends group whose parents at that point hadn't divorced. So I kind of felt like maybe my family had it a little more together than everybody else's, and then lo and behold, rug yanked out. And so if there was a God, why in the world would he let this happen? It certainly changed my perspective on family and what that looked like. That would play such a significant role in my wife Kelly and I's marriage down the road, that I had no idea. I had no idea how it was going to impact our marriage. Things just kind of got flipped on their heads. And so playing sports through high school, but never really found the crowd that I fit in with, and was kind of a loner, kind of a quiet type. Had a few people that I would talk to every now and then, but nobody that I was really like BFFs with or anything like that. And then got out of school and just started dabbling in a lot of the wrong things. I was racing BMX bikes and racing cars and anything fast that I could get behind and be involved in. That's what I wanted to do. And it just took me into this. It just spiraled me into this life that ended up being a drug and alcohol addiction. The drugs stemmed mostly from just the party life and really probably deep down wanting to forget all the other stuff up to that point. The addiction was it was kind of a roller coaster. I'd have weeks where it would be okay, and then something would happen, and then I'd go drink myself stupid, or eating pills till I couldn't function, or snorting coke until I just felt like my heart was going to explode out of my chest, just to kind of get rid of the things that were going through my brain and whatnot, and have fun, at least for a minute. After that, not after that, but in the midst of all that, meet this girl who I was pretty interested in. I don't know that she was as interested in me initially as I was her, but it's kind of the way it goes sometimes. Knew that I wanted to be better than what I was, because I did have such an interest in her. And so a couple years into dating her, we're married and living a good life, living as good a life as two early 20-year-olds can, both working. I was a functioning addict, right? And really, I don't know that Kelly even knew the degree to which I was involved in the things that I was, just because I was really good at hiding it. My parents didn't even know the extent of my addiction and my struggles with that until years later. And it kind of floored them even that I was able to just maintain status quo for so long. But Kelly and I have been married for 5 or 6 years, and we had a little one, Emma, that a lot of folks know. And I decided that dad life, that home life, husband life, was really hindering what Nick wanted to do with life, and just walked away from it for no reason whatsoever. I'm sure then I had a boatload of reasons that I rattled off, but looking back, none of those had any validity. It boiled down to just selfishness and just wanting to do what I wanted to do on my own schedule and on my own time. So Kelly and I ended up separated, and that went on for a couple months. Decided that I wasn't gonna be the weekend warrior kind of dad, that I was gonna be more engaged in my kid's life and a part of her growing up, and so we end up back together for all the wrong reasons, is what it boiled down to. And we kind of fumbled through things for a couple more years, and then we were right back in the same boat. I think this time she was a little bit more done with me than she was the first time around, because it's kind of kept her dangling out there, her and Emma both, because again it was all about me. So walked out again, and this time around she'd made it pretty clear that she was done with my garbage, and I needed to focus on making sure that I was doing the right things for Emma, and that was it. So divorce papers were signed. It was a done deal on paper. It was just a matter of time to get those in the right hands to get that process taken care of. And then I was away for a weekend, trying to forget all of that and everything that was about to happen, because ideally for me, I think my brain in that moment was in the mindset of this is normal, like this happens, right? I said that when my parents divorced, it kind of normalized that life for me, that choice. So it happens. I'm gonna move on and gonna make the most of it for my kid. But I'm coming back from this weekend of partying and trying to forget everything that was going on, and trying not to think about the things that were probably about to happen. And God went to work in just the craziest way, because that's what he does. And I ended up having to detour all the way cross country from 71 all the way over through Circleville. No intention of coming through Circleville, but I ended up driving by the house that Kelly and Emma were living at, the house that I walked away from, and they're outside, and I get this knot in my throat, right, and this knot in my gut, and we all know it, right? Those of us that have kind of been on the dark side of things, and God's trying to show us that he's there for us. We all know that knot that you get, and I got that, and I sat on the side of the road about a quarter mile up from the house, just losing it, mentally, emotionally, physically even. And so finally pull myself together, and I drive on up to Asheville where I was staying at the time, and laid in the floor just sobbing uncontrollably because I thought it was done at that point. Kelly had told me it was done, and so trying to figure out what that meant and what that looked like, trying to figure out how I'm going to deal with all of this regret that was welling up inside me for the choices that I made, and last ditch effort, I guess, crying out to a God that I wasn't even entirely certain at that point existed, right? Been through catechism, I heard the stories, I had a prayerful grandmother who always let me know that she was praying for me, and so this guy who had just brushed all that off for 32 years of his life is on his knees mumbling through a prayer, I guess, asking God to step in and do something. And in that moment, it was, I can still feel it today, right? Like, it was literally like somebody was in the room and just wrapped me up, right? And it was immediate comfort. It was immediate peace. It was immediate understanding that regardless of where things went, that it was going to be okay, right? That I was not in this alone, that I was not in this moment alone, but going forward, I was not in this alone, that I had somebody that was walking through this with me. So the next morning I call Kelly, right? And in this last ditch effort with her to say, hey, something happened and you're not gonna believe what happened, and I need you to just hear me out. And hearing her on the other end of the phone sobbing, and what I thought was just anger and frustration with me and dragging her through this roller coaster. But it was love and concern and forgiveness even, that she, and letting me know that through all this, despite her struggles with the things I was doing and the way I was acting and the things that I was saying to her, that she had forgiven me and that she had been praying for me, and that God showed up, and so I guess I say all that, like, if you're married or even if you're dating somebody and you find yourself praying constantly because you want them to know the Lord and they're just not there yet, don't stop. Do not stop praying. Keep praying for them, because it works. And God hears it, and God will honor that persistence, and He will bless that persistence in ways you never thought possible. So I'm saved, right? And Kelly and I are slowly and gradually letting God piece this back together, right? We knew the first time we did it all in our own power, tried to, and it just fell apart again, right? So we knew this time going into it. So we're doing counseling with our pastor here at Heritage at the time, who I gotta say, the first time I met him, basically not knowing me from Adam, looked me in the face and said, "It's time for you to grow up." Those were his first words to me. And I'm like, as frustrated and angry as I should have been about a comment like that from somebody who didn't know me, I was immediately all ears, like I'm dialed in, because I knew in him saying that I could at this point, and I wasn't gonna have to walk this journey alone. But we're piecing things back together. This new little girl comes along in our lives, Gracie, because all the way up to that point we were a one kid family, and that's what we had always said, but this next little girl comes along, and I think we just rightly named her Gracie, right? Because her being with us and being our part of our family is a work of God's grace in our lives. And so, addiction gone from my life. Like there was, and this isn't to discredit any type of recovery or any of those services that I know are valuable and that people need in their lives, but I asked God to take it, and God took it. It was gone, and there was almost no withdrawals, anything like that. And so this past December, 11 years clean and sober, drugs and alcohol. This year, 20 years married. Kelly and I, on July 17th, we'll be 20 years into this craziness, and she is a saint for sticking through this. And then, the things that God is allowing us to be a part of now in our lives is just incredible. This journey in ministry, and even trying to wrap my head around being called to ministry. They say all the time, God uses imperfect people, right? And if you don't believe that, I'm here to tell you, God uses imperfect people. And he loves to use imperfect people in their stories. But we have the table that was such a blessing to be a part of in Waverly, and we've got amazing friends that have joined us in this venture here in Circleville, and we're feeding people week in and week out. Physically, we're feeding people spiritually week in and week out. Building relationships in the community, building connections in the community so that people realize that, hey, we are here and we care about the people we are serving. Like, it's so much deeper than just the food we're putting on the plates, right? It's about the connections that we're making and getting to play a part in their lives. And God is blessing our efforts there, right? We're not many people know this, but the table is venturing into becoming a full-on compassionate ministry center in the Nazarene denomination. Don't ask me what that means, because I'm still learning what that means, but we know that the table, God has a plan for the table to become a faith-based mission in Circleville that is focused on feeding people physically so that we can feed them spiritually and help them really understand a better way to live this life. And at the end of it all, I'm that kid on the roller coaster with his hands in the air saying, let's go, like, let's do this. Like, it's just in sold out mode. And at this point, I don't know any other way to live. And it's had some pain points, but man, what a journey, and I don't regret a minute of it. I mean, I guess if there's any one thing out of this story, prayer. Don't ever discredit the power of prayer. Whether or not prayers that are going up are being heard, God hears you. Whether, like I said, whether you're a spouse or a loved one trying to get a loved one to Christ, trying to help them understand who God is and how much God cares for them and how much He wants to be in their lives. Don't stop praying. I don't care if you've been doing it for years. Don't stop praying, because it works. It absolutely works. And those prayers, in God's time, He's gonna do something big in them. If you are battling with addiction, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be anything that has got a hold on your life that is keeping you from experiencing all the blessing that God has for you in this life. Keep going forward, keep pushing forward. Use a recovery program, surround yourself with friends that are going to encourage you, whatever it is, but pray through it, right? God hears you, God is listening, and God is going to God is going to see you through that to the other side of that, to a place where that doesn't rule your life anymore. And the blessing in that, the number of people that you're going to be able to impact through your story, you can't even begin to imagine. So pray, right? Keep praying. Don't stop praying, and just trust that He's going to move in His time.